Welcome to our Boldly Going Nowhere uh, Dharma talk, again being given from our patio here in beautiful Ojochal, Southwest Pacific Coast, Costa Rica. The opening meditation for today is going to be given by Lisa Virtue. Here you go, Lisa. Catch my breath here.
Thank you, Ruthie.
No, thank you.
Okay, so today we're again going to find ourselves in our present moment through some physical movements. So the first step is very simple. We're going to pat and tap our bodies, starting from the head all the way to the toes. It's just going to enliven our energy, and then when we're finished, we'll just sit and be present with that. So just begin at your head, patting, tap your face, your eyes, everywhere. You want to get all the parts. Around your arms. Across the chest. Hold your elbow and pat yourself on the back. Harder to get the back, but come here. All the way down the legs to the feet. Hi, Elvis. I'm not calling you
Over here. Okay.
When you're all done, just sit with your eyes closed and feel the sensations moving through your body. Noticing the enlivenment of the energy. Now, we're going to do some breath practice, what's called pranayama. And this particular one is called Nadi Shodhana, which translates to Nadi is an energy channel, and Shodhana is the purification of that channel. And it's a process that's very calming, very relaxing. If you're anxious or if you can't sleep and you do this practice, it balances both sides of your body. It calms your nervous system, so you can use it pretty much anytime. And it's got a little hand mudra. So you're going to take your fingers in the peace sign and then bring those two together and put them right between your eyes. And you'll bring your thumb to your right nostril and the other two fingers just together to your left nostril. So you're not pushing very hard. These fingers could be down if that's challenging for you. You're using your right hand. So we begin by lightly pressing your thumb to your right nostril to close it. And you inhale through your left nostril. Then you close. I'll just walk you through it. Then you inhale, then you close your left nostril and open the right. And you exhale through the right. While that's still open, then you breathe in through the right, close, open the left, exhale out the left, and then inhale through the left and repeat that process. Okay, so let's just start with a few. You can release your hands, and we're just going to do a few deep breaths with both nostrils. Now, naturally, we'll have one nostril that might be open and the other one not so much. So this helps to kind of open that as well. And if you chronically have one that's closed, you might have other symptoms as well. If the left side is closed, you may be more sluggish or tired or sort of lacking energy. And if the right side is closed, you might be more quick to frustration and anger and that. So this will help to balance those emotions. All right, so let's do 2 deep inhales and long exhales. So now, fingers to the forehead and to either side of the nostrils. We're going to block the right nostril, inhale through the left, block the left, exhale through the right, inhale through the right, close, exhale through the left, inhale through the left, exhale through the right, inhale through the right, close and exhale through the left, inhale through the left, exhale right, inhale right, exhale left, inhale left, exhale right, inhale right, exhale left, inhale left, exhale right, inhale right, exhale left. Keep going on your own. One more round. Hand back down. Continue breathing normally with your eyes closed. Settle into a few moments of quiet meditation. Notice your state of being. slowly open your eyes back, just being settled in this moment. Stay.
Thank you, Lisa. I was a little out of breath when we started, and now I'm moving on it, which is very nice. Okay, effort. Effort's a utilitarian word. It's very straightforward, practical, sensible. It's a word we respect. We certainly have no animosity for it, but it is simply not an exciting or exotic word. And for some people, it has connotations of strain and struggle and stress. So to begin this second part of our talk on the Eightfold Path's sixth step, which is right effort, I think it's a good idea to remind ourselves that everything in the Dharma is directed towards our well-being. There is, in this right effort, no finger wagging, no guilt feelings, no nothing. This right effort is in the service of our happiness, the happiness that we receive from enlightenment, the freedom and the happiness of awakening. So, before we begin the actual second part of the talk on the sutra about right effort, I'd like to have Jeff quickly go through the 5 practical ways to manage the first 2 elements. Now, I'm going to back up a little bit. Another thing to remember is that we're dealing with dualism here. We have positive and we have negative states of consciousness, of mind. The Sutra on Right Effort is broken into 2 parts. The first Jeff did, which involves the negative. And he's going to tell you the 5 practical things you can do to cope with the instruction. Instruction is first to prevent the arising of negative states, also called unwholesome states. And the second part is to abandon those states once they have arisen. So now, Jeff, let me push this over to you. I don't know, the rain has started. So
We'll have to speak right into the mic like this. Okay.
is that okay?
Yes. So last week we did the first half of Right Effort, and Ruthie introduced it with the two parts about changing the channel is what I called it. And so there were 5 strategies to stop distracting thoughts that are unwholesome. First, is to use the opposite as an antidote. So if you are feeling something, you're feeling guilt, you might practice kindness in changing the channel of your thoughts. It's in some way it's about refocusing. The second one was 2 little parts that you ask yourself the question, given this negative state of being, of mind, of energy, what would a wise person do with this? And then taking responsibility for changing your mind state. Once you have figured out what that is, that might be a mentor, that might be a person you admire, how they handle their life. It might be a guru, it might be a spiritual leader, it might be a parent. It could be anyone that you. What would the wisest person that I know? What would they do with this negative state, and then take responsibility for changing that for yourself. The third is, and I like this one a lot. I use this one a lot. Divert your attention. So when you're focused on something that is unwholesome, unhealthy, that you know it's not going to lead you anywhere productively, that you deliberately divert your attention to something else. And we talked last week a little bit about the marshmallow experiment with children. Watch that video. I'm not going to say it again. The fourth is exactly the opposite of the third, which is rather than diverting your attention, look directly at the source and what is underneath the source. This is a very therapeutic idea from the Buddha. It fits very nicely with therapy, that there's a presenting problem and you should look at it directly. You should look at, examine it from all the angles, and as you examine it from all the angles, you should look underneath. Where is this coming from? I'm angry at this person. Who does this person represent to me? That would be one way of looking underneath the current circumstances. And finally, the last one, which I got a chuckle, and we all get a chuckle from, is very untherapeutic. So it goes in my mind, but very practical. If all of these other ideas of using the opposite as an antidote, taking responsibility, diverting our attention, looking directly at it and underneath, if all those fail, suppress these negative thoughts with clenched teeth. And so that's what we talked about last week, and I really summarized it that these are strategies for changing the channel when you're on a channel that isn't being productive.
Okay. So that's the first part of our two-part talk on the teaching of right effort. The first part is on the negative states. The second part, which I'm going to talk about, is on the positive states. Together, these four are usually titled, if you read about them, as the four endeavors. Now, it's very interesting to note that people tend to invest far more of their time and attention on the negative states than on the positive ones. So one of the bits of advice that comes in is to think about why you are doing the studying that you're doing. Why are you making efforts? And which efforts accentuate the positive and help to deal with the negative? But you notice that when the Buddha first talks in the First Noble Truth about dukkha, or suffering, he says it's like a wobbly wheel on a wagon. Well, now the analogy I'd like to use here is while that one wheel is wobbling, that's what you pay attention to. But there are three wheels that are actually working, not getting any attention, but they are the wheels that are getting you to where you are going, even if they're hampered by the wheel that's bumpy and that's getting all the attention. So the first idea is to give thought to what efforts actually support and bring forward your aspirations. It might be to just reduce stress. It might be to solve a personal problem, a health issue, a family issue, whatever. Give as much thought or more to those wholesome. You remember, I'll digress a moment. The way we judge something we talk about non-judgment, but we do have a measuring tape or stick and judgment of whether something is wholesome or not. The first of the three is it well, is it says I lost my train of thought for a second. To be wholesome, it first is skillful, and skillful has to be a virtuous skillfulness, one that's based on integrity and principles. The second is it wholesome? In other words, is it healthy? And the third is it a benefit to myself and to others? So anytime you're running into something you want to think about, you ask yourself, well, is this skillful? Is it wholesome? Is it beneficial? Who does it benefit? And so now that sets a framework for changing the channel from the negative all the time to an emphasis on the positive. Now, as he gave the ideas for how to do this practically, there is no personal practical set of 5 anything here. There are 2 things, and these are steps 3 and 4. 3 is they use the word arouse, but stimulate, to bring about, which is what we're talking about, all our thoughts onto the wholesome state. If you are lacking as you study the negative states, if you say, yeah, I've been given kind of short shrift to the good parts of things, now you start to actually deliberately divert your attention from the negative to the positive. So the third of the 4 endeavors is to bring about added stimulus and arousal of skillful, wholesome, and beneficial states. And the 4th and final one is a toughie for a lot of us. It's to maintain those states of mind as we develop them. I say it's a toughie because almost everyone who is serious about meditation and really practices it will all of a sudden just not do it, sometimes for a long period of time. So there must be a right effort to find those states which work for you on a positive level and how to maintain them once you have them. All right, now, those are the 4 endeavors. Within the 3rd and 4th endeavor, there's also encompassing the first 2, actually all 4, but primarily it's introduced in the teaching during this 3rd and 4th, what are known as the 7 factors of enlightenment. So you've got 4 endeavors, 2 negative, 2 positive. You have 7 factors. I will admit that when I first was taught about these, I didn't think much of them. It was like a laundry list. I didn't see everything. It's so broad that I didn't feel it really had the right kind of focus. It just was everything all at once. But over the years, I have found that these 7 factors have a connectivity, a membrane, so to speak. And when you deal with one, you go back to the memory that everything is connected. All of the 8 steps on the Eightfold Path are connected intimately with all the others. Everything is connected to everything else. So even though you live in a dualistic world of opposites, the goal is to be non-dualistic and to realize that in and out are one. up and down are one. Negative and positive actually are one. Neither can exist without the other. You cannot sever them. They're like Siamese twins. So that ultimately, the goal of enlightenment is to really understand viscerally unity, cosmic unity. And we'll get into that more later. But here, briefly, are the 7 factors. There is a sort of a vague continuity as starting with one and moving on to the others. But you can take them apart, and we'll take them apart and study them all at separate times. Okay, the very first one is mindfulness. We know what mindfulness is. Be here now. Be aware. Be present. If you're not here now, where are you? So we'll go into that in great detail. The second one is investigation of all the states. Now, there are like 84,000 teachers, and there are many, many states. But all states begin with one of 6 senses. So if you study, for example, the Brahma Viharas, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity, those actually all relate to one another. Now, so those states, so I call it investigation of steps in states. You investigate all the steps. Everything that you think about goes into that second one of investigation. Okay? The third one is energy. Now, Buddhism believes that we are energetic beings. We are beings of light and energy. We'll go into that at greater length. This is our Buddha nature. And the energy is what moves everything. We were talking the other day about the Costa Rican national saying of Pura Vida, pure life. So when you're going through your investigation, think about where you are placing your energy. You've heard me say many times, where you place your mind is the direction of your life. So now we are deliberately, consciously placing our mind in places of, Brahma Viharas, of positive things. We moved away from the negative. We're going to try and direct our mind into the positive. So you have the Brahma Viharas, you have the Four Noble Truths. And just a side note, we notice that everything has numbers in the Dharma. Okay, it's 3 of this, 4 of that. And for those of you who are not familiar why that is so, it's because 2,600 years basically ago, they didn't have writing. So they memorized everything. It was oral transmission. And so you have to remember, and if you think, okay, there are 7 factors, now I'm going to come up with 6. Now you got to go home and worry about what was that other one. So it kind of keeps you into the chapters and framework. Okay, so mindfulness, investigation, energy, these are all actives. The fourth one is calm, the factor of calm / tranquility / peacefulness.
Relajarse.
Huh?
Relajarse in Spanish.
Okay, relajarse, but calm. And from that calm, which is number 4, you achieve number 5, which is joy. Joy / rapture / my favorite, which is bliss. So now you've got 5, and now you've got the last 2. One, Mark's going to address in a few weeks, and he has some really interesting takes on it. That's concentration. Well, actually, mindfulness comes first and concentration comes last. So you've got like bookends, which would be nice and would be nice and tidy if you tied it up with a bow. But there is the most important one of all at the opposite end of mindfulness, and it's the seventh factor, and it's equanimity. Everything is in balance. Everything is in balance. Now, it doesn't mean that they are equal. Excuse me. No, she's my sinuses. Clear my throat. Everything has to be in balance, and we get a lot of moral equivalency, which says, well, it's equally the same. If both things are equal, then one is just as good as the other. That's not true, and we will talk about that and investigate that at length under the steps 3, 4, and 5, which are integrity, ethics, morality. Perhaps you cannot have morality without immorality, but that does not mean you weigh them equally. You move to the one that you know is skillful, wholesome, and beneficial. You move away from the one that takes you away from that. And then within all this, you find balance. And Buddhism recognizes that life is a movable feast. That's why it's known to be relativity oriented, science oriented, because reality depends on where you're standing, and it can change from now and thank you, and the next thing that happens in your life. But they all still have to meet the same criteria. So there you basically have it, but of what they said. Don't pay attention to your negative states. This is on the positive side. Think about those positive states, and are you giving equal weight to them or more weight to them than the negative, or are you caught up in all the negative aspects of your life? You can think about the use of energy, for example. Oh, let's say you're in a bad relationship. It's abusive. We'll see how this one works out. But first of all, are you putting most of your energy into a state of mind in which you are a victim? Or are you putting more energy into a state of mind which is desperately seeking solutions to fix it? Or are you directing your energy towards escape? How do I get out of this mess that I'm in? Energy is used to move everything. There's a very, very good TED talk by a man named Andrew Solomon, and it's on depression. And he makes the basic point, having been clinically depressed himself, that depression is not just sadness. Depression is a loss of vitality. That's that feeling of wanting to go to bed and pull the covers over your head. And when it really gets bad, it's the feeling like, I can't take any more. I'm too tired. I need to get out. Oh. So energy and our direction of energy, for example, in what Jeff was talking about, if you're beginning to be depressed and you're familiar with all this, you might be able to cut it off at the pass by beginning to really direct yourself in another direction and not sink into this loss of energy. Okay? So this applies for anything and everything. But this is not theoretical any more than it is practical. All of this is useful. One last word, if we have a moment more.
You're good.
Okay. There's a sister to Buddhism, to the Dharma. We call it all Dharma, and it's called the Tao. And one of the really great things about studying right effort is to study the Tao Te Ching, which is effortlessness. And when you finally reach a point of effort that things become effortless, then things all begin to open up and expand. This is known as when the dancer is the dance. No longer the dancer, he actually is the dance. It's called going with the flow, and being really in tune. And all of a sudden, that which was effort, which is practice, practice, practice. You don't, that's the whole point of effort. And that's where a lot of people give it a bad rap. But if you practice it, it becomes second nature. So if you practice loving kindness when you don't even feel like it, when you practice mindfulness when you'd rather not, when you practice these things that you know about, after a while, they're effortless. And this is called Wu Wei, and it's really fun. And somebody, it is fun. It's fun to read, and I love the fact that Lao Tzu, who wrote the book, is telling everybody in this book how to go with the flow and go with effort and all this. But he wrote the book when he decided he'd had enough of where he lived. He didn't like their politics and he didn't like the people. And so what did he do? He left. And finally, his final go with the flow effort was, I'm getting the hell out of here. Just going. And he did. And sometimes that's where it takes us. But it shouldn't take us there without lots of thought and consideration, with paying attention to the three wheels that aren't wobbling 3 times more than you pay attention to the one that is, and believing that the real power of that wagon is in the three that are functioning and not giving anybody any trouble. They're doing their job. The real power is in unity and cooperation. The loss of power in that wagon is in the wheel that's wobbling. It's in the negativity. Okay, so there we have it. I think that's it. And we
Can we
can
make some comments?
please, that's what I was about to say. Anybody want to jump in here and comments, questions, whatever?
Can I?
Absolutely.
Your entire talk reminded me of Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket. What do you think? My nose is going to come
No,
out?
no. Well, Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio. Do you know the song?
Yeah, I can't remember it right now, though.
Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch
Right.
on to the affirmative. Now,
Right.
the last line might not work, and don't mess with Mr. In Between.
Mhm.
Buddhism is about the middle way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's from the Disney movie, and what you're really talking about is, in counseling terms, is reframing things, putting a different frame around the same picture, and putting what you're saying is putting a positive spin on this. I hope that my father gets to listen to this, but he's really, really amazing at this. Is he could have the worst day in the world, and by 4 a.m., 6 a.m. the next day, he's turned it around. I have no idea how he does this because no, I have, and it still is a mystery to me, and it's kind of a mystery to him about how he does that. But you want to know that's part of the magic, I think, of this. Is that what I'm hearing from you is if you continue the habit of changing that perspective, it will become natural.
Yeah.
And it will be very difficult for you to spend much time in the negative. every negative thing will just be an opportunity for you to practice affirmation. That doesn't mean that you live in a la la land, but I think
That's what I was say. It also doesn't mean that you're going to be some kind of Pollyanna,
right,
or that things aren't going to bother you.
right,
It's really important to realize that we don't come to the path, we don't come to the Dharma because we're perfect people. We come because we're flawed. And these are our flaws. And what we're doing is investigating the psychology, the physiology, the everything of ourselves. This is what we're trying to do. But it's not that you're going to turn out and just be like, woo and really wonderful all the time. You're not. But these are practical ways to tackle whatever comes up for you that you need to work on.
Anybody else want to add something?
Come on, add something on here.
I'll rephrase your question so it can be heard by our screen audience. One more thing that I liked was the maintaining part. The fourth one, that not only do you change that perspective to positive, productive, effective things that will lead you somewhere, but also then the more boring thing is to continue to practice and maintain that so that becomes natural and second nature. Yeah, it's a beautiful follow up, you know. Lisa, go ahead.
Something I was reading recently was saying essentially instead of not doing something at all, do any little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So do something poorly rather than not do it at all.
Right.
So
Right.
if you can only do 3 minutes of meditation, it's better than doing no meditation.
Correct.
That's right.
Right. So you're talking about the effort. If you're saying that it can start small.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to take on the whole package,
Yeah.
and that small thing. And even it sounds to me, even when there's a little resistance on your part.
Yeah, like if you're thinking, half an hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes is impossible for you, do 3.
Right.
Then at least you've done a little and you haven't done nothing.
Yes. I hope you all heard that, but just to summarize that what Lisa's saying is when you take a smaller chunk, it still is productive. Take something that's possible. Start with what's possible for you in any of these practices, any of these changing of the channels. Start there.
Or you'll never start.
Yeah. Get started, and even if it's 3 minutes rather than 15, maintain 3 minutes, and maybe, maybe it will expand. Maybe 3 minutes will do it for you. Yeah. Thank you, Mark. You want to say something?
Well, just into the context of what you're saying about going into meditation, and then for some unknown reason they stop for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always akin that to like filling a cup. Once the cup seems to be full, you seem to think, well, I don't need to fill the cup anymore. The cup's full.
Right.
But it slowly keeps
backsliding is what we call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that once you achieve that level of the cup being full, it's about maintaining the cup. And not having to do a ritual, not having to do an hour's ritual, if only 3 minutes or 5 minutes will suffice. And then to couple that with what Lisa said, then 3 minutes or 5 minutes is enough, and it's more than enough to maintain it until we reach that point of equilibrium that we notice something, or equanimity. Mm-hmm. And if we notice something is out of balance at some particular point, then we start the process again. Then we bring out all of our tools and we begin the process again, and maybe we're back to 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of meditation until we reach that equilibrium.
Right, you're back.
And so it becomes a cycle of ebb and flow. And where we tend to get caught is, personally speaking, is where we reach that balance point. It's like, okay, everything's good. I don't have to do anything anymore.
Okay. You get complacent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That really fits. So that really fits, Mark. That when you work towards balance, towards having your cup full, that that the work continues. But now that you know where you are, now you have to do that. The other thing that I think about cup filling is that um, if the cup overflows, good.
Yeah.
It's not just about filling our own
right.
cup. That's how we make a difference in the world. Is when our cup is full and we continue to fill it and continue to work at our disciplines and changing the channels and all these things we're talking about, giving the right effort to things. Then at that point it spills out into the world. And then there's no going back once you get in that stream. I suppose there is, but most people don't. Once they get to that point, now there's no going back. They're caught in the stream of it all. It's beautiful. That's good stuff. Anybody else? Anything? Susan, you good? Well, I think that was a very good talk, Ruthie. Thank you.
Well, thank you. As I say, I think a lot of it just is a matter of understanding habit. That's what I mean by the three wheels versus the other. Our habit tends to be on the negative, and we just kind of brush off the positive. Now you want to change your habits, and it will change things. There you go. So, are we going to close with
Yes, I'm going to
a
stop.
meditation? Do I have time? Turn it on you. And now to conclude, we're going to do a full metta, loving kindness meditation, guided.
Go ahead.
There we go, guided. Don't hit me in the teeth. I don't have any teeth. You don't want to knock out what I have.
Sorry.
That's all right. We're going to have a metta meditation, a loving kindness meditation. So please get comfortable wherever you are. Take a few deep breaths. Go into a state of release. We're done with the talk now. We're moving on to something else. Have a moment of silence for transition and just go into stillness. I love the definition of meditation as the still point of the turning world. That's particularly true for silent meditation. But since we are filming, we're going to do a guided meditation. For those who are not familiar with it, pick out 5 people. Yourself is number 1. Someone you love is number 2. A neutral person, someone that you just know but aren't really, really close to, number 3. Someone you're in conflict with is number 4. And number 5 is all sentient beings. Everyone, everywhere. You can do this out loud if you're at home, silently repeating after me if you're in a group. And with each one, try to really let the words sink in. Feel what you're saying. So we begin with ourselves. Close your eyes, take a breath. Look at yourself as if you were in a mirror and say, may I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease. That, by the way, is equanimity. Calm and peaceful. May I be happy. Breathe again. Smile goodbye to yourself. Bring to mind the person you love. Smile at them, say their name, and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Breathe in. Move on to your neutral person. If you don't know his or her name, simply address them as friend. May you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Smile. Say goodbye for now. And move on to the person with whom you're in conflict. This may be someone you don't like, or someone who doesn't like you, or it's mutual. It could be someone living or dead. But bring them to mind as clearly as you can and don't look away. May you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Breath and a sigh. And now we bring our hands to our heart, symbolically to embrace all sentient beings. And we say, may all beings everywhere on this plane and all other planes be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. Now let the feelings of goodwill, this unconditional friendliness, this sense of compassion sink in at almost a cellular level and carry it forward. And we will conclude with a little benediction. Go in peace. Go making peace. Living gently. Loving mightily. And bowing to the mystery. Thank you all very much.